Welcome to the Global Assessment 1 training module for Moody Health Center at Texas Chiropractic College. I'm Dr. Corey Mayon, the Director of Clinical Education, and I'll be leading your training module. Students will receive 3 global assessments, a G1, a G2, and a G3. This training module will cover G1. Global 1 is given in the first 5 weeks of a student's rotation. You will typically do the global assessment towards the end of the 5-week rotation with each intern. When you're doing your global assessment, please access the assessment portal, select Global after you've filled out the assessment intro page, and then you're going to assess 5 data collection points or questions. There are notes available so that you can let the intern know what you've noticed throughout their rotation. The average is taken of the 4 scored components so that students can see later if they are below, at, or above their benchmark for their clinic. Please remember, give feedback. It's very important to give feedback on the global assessment, as this is what helps students gauge their overall performance in clinic. This is a snapshot of the handout you've been given of G1. The top has the questions with titles and overview statements, along with the meta competencies that are tied to each question. Let's go over the questions. Question number 1 covers the communication and patient education aspect. This talks about if students explain conditions clearly throughout their rotation. The second is another communication on case presentation. This is, how did the intern communicate with you as an attending? Third is their documentation procedures and their compliance. Does their documents comply with HIPAA regulation, and are they accurate? Question number 4 is on conduct and professionalism. How did the student act throughout their rotation with you? Once you've assessed these components, then you'll move to the feedback page. Select the assessment, which would be G1, and then write the verbal feedback that you gave the intern, what went well, and things to improve on. If clinical education review is required, please place it at this point, and then type in your 4-letter verification code that only you and the clinic data manager know. Let's see what this looks like. We'll start a new assessment. Pick yourself and the intern that you're evaluating. Choose their clinic. Since there's no chart number, you'll type G1 or NA. For this one, we're going to select Other and put G1. Then we'll click Global 1. Next. The Global Assessment 1 following questions need to be assessed. Number 1. Communication and patient education. Student demonstrated appropriate communication skills during patient interactions and patient education. All of these will be scored on the Dreyfus model. Communication and case presentation. Throughout the rotation, the student demonstrated appropriate communication skills with attending clinician daily. Documentation and compliance. Students' documentation meets professional and legal standards. Lastly, conduct or professionalism. Student acted professionally, practiced proper hygiene, and maintained active engagement daily. On this example, let's say that we've discussed with students that the area they need the most improvement in is documentation. So we will change the documentation to a slightly lower score. Click Finish the assessment. Move on to the feedback page. Select Global Assessment. On the verbal feedback, what went well? Great communication. Throughout rotation. Verbal feedback, things to work on. Documentation skills. If clinical education review is needed, please assign it here and then type in your verification code. And you're done with Global 1. This concludes your Global 1 assessment training module. For any questions, please refer to your handbook, the handouts, or the syllabi. For answers that can't be found there, please refer to the following. For clinical operations, ask the Director of Clinical Services. For education concerns, you can ask me, the Director of Clinical Education. And for resources, please ask the Clinic Data Manager. Thank you for your attention.